Welcome back to the Rude Dude podcast. I am your host, Enrique de la Mer, with my partner, Cameron, my friend, my buddy, my guy, my pal. How are you, Cam?
You know what, pal? I'm doing actually pretty good today, man. Pretty good. The funny thing is that in Spanish, I think I've mentioned this on this
Yes.
podcast. Yes,
Yes.
it means shrimp. It means shrimp.
Yes.
My name means shrimp, dude.
I know. The lobster and the shrimp.
The lobster and the shrimp. I
And
mean,
you're the little one.
it honestly couldn't have any better than that.
Dude, so I'm in the shower thinking of how I'm going to introduce myself, right? And I'm like, Enrique. That's what comes to my mind, Enrique. And then I actually looked up how to say of the ocean in Spanish, but I fucking forgot already. So de la mer is actually French. So we got a little Spanish, a little French. And then I was like, Cameron. And I was like, oh my God, that's a fucking shrimp. We got fucking crustaceans gone wild over here, brother.
Dude, crustaceans gone wild. My new nickname is now just going to be the shrimp, dude. We're gonna get rid of the Cree, and it's now the shrimp. I'm actually thoroughly surprised that it's taken us this long to make that
Right?
correlation. That's awesome, dude. It's so funny. So anytime I tell like a super Hispanic person my name, they give me like a sly eye and they go, "Oh, it adds up there, you little limp dick."
Lobman, the adventures of Lobman and Shrimp.
Yeah, that's it, dude. That's it.
Awesome. Well, as the listeners, you may tell, I'm pretty fired up. I'm excited about this podcast. I'm excited about our guest, Podcast Thursday. And we have an important announcement. We have broken 4,000 total plays.
Yes. Big time for us. Podcast keeps growing. That may be minimal numbers compared to our prestigious guest that we're going to be coming in here, but for us, that's a big deal. This is episode 45. We are very excited about that. So thank you to all the listeners who have helped us cross that threshold, man.
Yes, sir. Well, my friend, without any further ado, should we bring in our guest?
Yeah, let's do it, man. I am going to bring him in right now. So we'll go to the awkward part of the podcast where we go and wait for him now.
What up?
What up, dude? What's up, dude? Our guest today, you're in. Our guest today, Jeremy Miller, and he actually worked at a rehab that I attended, and he does a lot for recovery. I've seen him throughout the years. Another guy that worked there, buddy of his and mine, Dallas, they do a lot of cool stuff together around recovery. So I thought it'd be really cool to have you on. Welcome, man. Thanks for being here.
Hey, thank you guys for having me, man. I've loved watching you throughout the years since we knew each other out here in California, and I've checked out the pod. I've done a couple episodes, and I love what you guys are up to, man. And I'm glad that you guys started it. A lot of people are like, "Oh, dude, like I want to do a podcast, but there's too many, and there's so many already." And it's like, yeah, but none of them have you. You know what I mean?
That's
and
right.
So I'm glad you guys went for it, dude, because I like what you're up to.
Thanks, man. Well, it's funny. I thought you were going to say a lot of people talk about it and never do it, which we did talk about it for like two fucking years before we ever did it. But
hey, but here you are, man.
We did it. Here we are.
Yeah, I'm pumped.
Yeah, dude, we got the receipts on that. I mean, it's an ongoing conversation. We got to start the podcast. I mean, we got to do it. We got to do it. And I mean, there really was no catalyst. Just one day we were just like, dude, let's fucking do it. And here we are. Thanks for the kind words, man. I appreciate that. And thanks for listening to the few episodes that you have, brother. I appreciate it. It's got to be super cool. And then I'll let Hen ask his first question. It's got to be super cool to sit here and be like, hey, I worked at a rehab and now I'm sitting here on this dude's podcast. Like that's got to be dope.
Yeah, it's probably one of my favorite things about the work that I've done and the work I do is it's up to us to pass the torch of recovery. It's up to us to fan the embers until they're flames. You know what I'm saying? And working in the biz as long as I have, it's a surreal feeling to see all these fires out here, man, and people just doing it. People, creating lives that once upon a time they didn't think were even remotely possible. The wildest dreams weren't this good. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And that shit fires me up, dude.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, and it's funny in this age of social media, we, like you said, you've been watching me over the years, so I have so many people from, I've been to rehab a few times,
yeah,
from different rehabs and stuff where, some of it doesn't work out very well, and some of it you see them out there shining and doing it, and it's a really like a beautiful fucking thing, and it's really cool to keep up with them, and you get those people that are just really out there doing it, and it's awesome to see.
Hell yeah.
So you have the unique perspective of someone who worked at a rehab that I attended. Do you remember anything about me? So let me set the stage. Well, first of all, this guy's on a fucking sweet ass deck out in Monterey. It's beautiful. He's barely got to wear a long sleeve shirt.
Dude, he looks like he's ready to go eastbound and down, dude.
That's what it feels like. That's what it feels like.
That headset, bro.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, man. It's funny though, because I sat out here thinking it'd be all nice out, and then as soon as the sun started going down, and I'm like, oh fuck, dude, it's a little colder than I thought it would be. But hey, dude, we're gonna roll with it. You know what I mean?
He's gonna be over there shivering by the end of the podcast.
Yeah, man. It reminds us we're alive,
So the rehab where I met you, it was a pretty big one. And there was a lot of counselors, a lot of clients. And so I don't think we personally spent a ton of time together. I know that I'm pretty sure you taught a couple classes, or I forget exactly what you did there, to be honest. It was like 8 years ago. But do you have any memory of me and what I was like when I first got there?
Damn, was it really 8 years ago?
I had my 28th birthday in Elevate. I am 36 years old.
Holy shit. Wait, that is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, real quick, the math wasn't.
Yeah. No, your math's there, dude. I'm just feeling a little old. That's all, Yeah, right. Dude. So back in the day when you went through, I was overseeing all the clinical delivery, right? So everything from detox, the group facilitation, the health office, like anything that had to do with kind of the day-to-day journey the clients took, that was all kind of underneath my umbrella. And so it makes sense that you don't remember me very much, at least from your treatment experience, because usually if people ended up in my office, it's because they either A, wanted to leave, or B, they were so pissed at their primary counselor that they had to talk to their boss, right?
Whose office I spent a lot of time in was Danielle.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
That's where you went when you got in trouble.
When you got in trouble, yeah, dude. And great segue, by the way, to what I remember of Henry in treatment.
Oh shit!
Not a lot of trouble. I wouldn't say that stood out, but you suffered one of the plights that many do in treatment, all genders, and that is that you showed up to treatment looking pretty good, and when that happens, people tend to fall in love and flirt a little bit, and maybe attention wasn't as routinely on the coursework as much as your peers, I'll say. But dude, one of the things that did stand out that I do see kind of perpetuating through your work here on the pod and your presence online, at least, is super active, super in the gym, which I loved and I feel is such a vital part of life, and especially life in recovery. And the other part is that you were funny, dude. I think your sense of humor is it's one of those things where perhaps for some it may be a little too much. For me, it feels just right, man. I like to play and poke around, and that's what stood out, man. And I think coming into treatment at 28, you're old enough to kind of know the ways of the world, but also not too old that you can't learn something new. And
right.
And that's what I remember, dude. You know?
Yeah, that's pretty good. I'm impressed. I'm impressed. And yeah, I do wonder now. I was thinking about it today, leading up to this, and my program, I would say, looks a little different than a lot of people in like a traditional NA and AA program. And even though I do attend those meetings sometimes, but I was thinking about that, and like you said, the active part, and that's what Elevate was really big on. Was what else do you do, like hobbies, activities, keep yourself busy, find something you love. If I remember right, like that was a big part of the program. And now that I'm thinking about it, like that is how I work my program now, and not so much like a traditional NA program.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
Sorry, dude.
am I remembering that correctly? Oh, go ahead.
You are. Mm-hmm.
I think it's so funny how like the ego can still get stroked, right? Hey, Jeremy, tell me what you remembered about me at rehab, brother. and then he comes through and he's like, "Hey, you were the sexiest guy in there. All the women wanted you. You were Jack. And by the way, you're hilarious. Like we needed to pump up Henry any more than we.
Well, you know what, dude? Like, here's the thing, dude. We got to celebrate the ego. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
like,
we do.
It's here to serve us in a way if we know what's happening. And it's also just like by nature. Like I said, like if people ended up like the people who really remember me from around that time, like 2015 to 2017, if they really remember me, they were having a really, really rough time. So the fact that I remember all of Henry's fun qualities and just kind of like bebopping around treatment, like lifting weights and flirting with the girls, like that's a good testament that he was working his program. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, actually, and I have to defend myself here, and Jeremy can back me up. I texted him. I told him I was going to ask him what he remembered about me, and I specifically said, "I'm not asking for you to stroke me. I actually would like to know if
that's true.
Like, if I like my character defects, if I was an asshole, like what I think would be more fun for the podcast is like this motherfucker was a goddamn mess. He was the angriest." Which I don't think I honestly really was at that point because I was a little older. So
yeah.
My next rehab, they actually said I was quite the miserable prick when I got there, but I think I was kind of ready at that point. But we digress. We're going to get into all this a little bit more, but I want to start with a little more about you. So, can you tell us and the people a little bit about your addiction and what brought you to recovery?
Yeah, for sure. So I got sober in 2009, and got a sober date coming up here in a couple of weeks, and I'm pretty pumped about that. But
15 years coming
15
up,
years,
or?
man. Yeah.
Oh yeah, dude.
Yeah, man. Thank you guys. So I'm pretty
awesome.
pumped. And I got sober at 22. And my story is very akin to everybody else's, man. I started drinking way too young. I think a lot of that, and I'll be brief on it, but I was adopted, right? And from the time I was a little kid, I always felt like something was weird, something was off. I'm like this little brown kid. I got like super white parents, and it was, and the external world never let me forget it. You know what I mean? Like the amount of times we'd be at like a baseball game or a soccer game, and parents would be like, "Oh, so you're Jeremy's parents, huh? Like how did that work? Because you're like really white and he's not." And I'm a little kid, and little kids just internalize everything, right? So I'm like, "Oh my God, why am I so different?" And
yeah,
I think
is this in Santa Cruz, Monterey area?
No.
Is that where you're from?
No, so I was born and raised in Denver, actually.
Okay.
Littleton, to be more exact. And so I always had
Just
this
so
thing,
I get
right?
the picture, is that predominantly white?
It was at the
predominantly?
time. Yeah, it's suburban, dude. Like the most like cliche suburban little community, right? And
So it heightened your feeling of otherness.
yeah, oh, big time. Yeah, big time. That was really it. Is I felt other than, different, and just this like kind of inherent disconnection. I didn't know what from, or like what, like I missed something, but I didn't know what it was I was missing. It was a very weird experience. And so then when I was 10, I found out I was adopted, and and it was like I'm 10, so I don't have the capacity to really understand, but it started making a little bit of sense. And then, middle school, I realized that that alcohol was a thing, and that if you drank it, it kind of made everything feel just a little bit better, and it made things a little easier. And naturally, that became my brilliant strategy. Was if I didn't like how I felt, or I felt something unfamiliar and I didn't want it to be there anymore, I could, drink a little bit and there it'd go. And in high school, my grades really started dropping. I was super smart, did great on all my tests, crushed the ACT and the SATs, and drove my parents crazy because I tested super high, but my grades were super low, and nobody could quite figure it out. And I had ADHD, diagnosed since I was a little kid, and all these, all these different pieces, and falling in love and getting heartbroken, and all the normal high school kind of ailments that young people go through. Only I didn't know how to really hold any of that, and so I drank quite a bit. And then fast forward, I dropped out of college to pursue a career in music that didn't really work out, because I don't know if you guys know, but if in the music industry, there's a lot of drugs, a lot of drinking, a lot of girls, and that was all a lot more fun than college. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
and a
I
lot
didn't
more
do
fun than showing up for your shows or
That's it.
practice.
That's it, man. And so fast forward, dude, it's 2008, and my life was a complete disaster, dude. I mean, every aspect of my life was falling apart, and it was the result of gross neglect on my behalf, both internal and external. And of course, the fact that as a result of these things that I had neglected, I'd had quite a bit of, I had some problematic situations on my hand that weren't easy to deal with. So I drank and I used drugs, and that was how I dealt with it. And so in the summer of '08, my roommate kicked me out of my apartment just a couple of months after my parents told me they were divorcing. Uh, my girlfriend at the time broke up with me, couldn't deal with the alcoholic and crazy mania that came with being my girlfriend. And and my roommate said, "Dude, you know what, man? Like, we're done. You got to get out of here." And I had nowhere to go. And I asked my dad if I could move home, but he told me he was moving, and my mom didn't want to deal with my shit. And I said, "Well, dude, I got nowhere to go. What am I supposed to do?" And he said, "Well," and he was kind of half kidding, but he said, "You know what? I mean, you could pitch a tent out back. It's summertime. You'd be all right, you know?" And that's exactly what I did. So I threw up a tent. I ran an extension cord from the house, and I thought to myself, all right, I'm going to live in this tent for like 2 months, right? And I'm going to go get a job. I'm going to save up some money. I'm going to get a nice little apartment. I'm going to quit drinking. I'm going to quit drugging, get myself a nice girl, and that'll be my life.
I can tell you how the story ends. Go on.
Yeah, it didn't end well, man. I stayed in that tent until January of 2009, man. So I was in that tent through the Colorado winter, and let me tell you, dude, it was not the business, man. I mean, the tent itself was pretty dope. Like, as far as tents goes, it was like big tent, you know what I mean? Like, I had a little bit of power, dude. So like, I was living in a tent, but it was like pretty first class. You know what I'm saying? Like, as far as homelessness goes. And anyways, so I had what alcoholics refer to as a moment of clarity after a failed suicide attempt, and I went to treatment, man, and that was it.
Nice, dude.
Dude, first of all, that is the best 5-minute lead that I've ever heard. You did an excellent job of condensing it and hitting all the points. That was incredible. Go ahead.
Right on.
Yeah, dude, that I will piggyback off that. That was the greatest quick, synopsis of, hey, my life was in shambles. I almost killed myself, and here I am today, looking fantastic on a fucking balcony. I mean, it was great, dude. It had everything.
Awesome.
I do think there's something that's really interesting about that. From the adoption side, my dad was adopted. And,
awesome.
And when you look at my my dad's family pictures, it's a bunch of pasty white people.
Yeah.
And my dad's from an Italian family, so he's huge with jet black hair in these pictures. He's tan.
Yeah.
And it just never made any sense. I mean, my grandpa Davis was a ginger. His nickname was Red. So I mean, and lo and behold, my dad liked to party as well. So I don't know if there's like a secret correlation with that when you guys figure that stuff out as adopted children, but there might be something to that, man. I mean,
oh yeah. No, there is a correlation, and it's not so secret. There is a correlation. They don't have a lot of data on it yet, but I was at a conference a couple of years back, and a clinical director for this killer outpatient down in San Diego, I think it was, did a whole presentation about adoptees and drug addiction, and it was absolutely fascinating. And when you think about the mechanics of it, it makes perfect sense, because addiction's the result of disconnection and shame and trauma. And when you're adopted, you come out of the gate with all three kind of at onset of your life, and a lot of that doesn't really register in the psyche. Not necessarily. It's mostly in the body, but absolutely in the subconscious. A lot of times people that are adopted spend a lot of time in the hospital alone because they're trying to keep a certain amount of distance between the birth parents and the baby. Just because it can get complicated if there's too much attachment. And the result, of course, is that adoptees out of the gate develop attachment issues, right?
Yeah.
And so, it's I really don't like to victimize myself or other adoptees like, oh, we're, by default, like behind everybody else or more traumatized. I don't like going into that. However, we are starting our lives on a loss, and that loss registers very deeply, and I would say more often than not, it's completely unconscious. And so it does make childhood and adolescence a little sticky,
Mm-hmm.
And I have to say, like, your baseline feeling, and I think it would be more subconscious, but is like, my parents didn't want me. Right. I feel like that's, and whatever, there's a million different reasons why, but I would feel like for someone who, is adopted, that it's just that thought is kind of in the back of their head. Like you said, whether you even realize it or not, there's something about me or in my family and whatever happened that, they didn't want me.
Absolutely. Yeah. And
that's
one step further, there's like, the idea, oh, I wasn't wanted, that's like the leaves and the branches, right? At the root of that thought is, I'm not lovable, I'm not wantable, there's something wrong with me. It has nothing to do with my parents who didn't want me. It's that there's something about me that is undesirable. Me as who I am is undesirable. Those are the roots, right? And they manifest as these other ideas, but at the roots, it's like, it's some pretty deep attachment stuff. And the good news is that adoption and the way it's done now is radically different than when I was adopted, and I think that we're bringing a lot more awareness to that kind of thing now. But of course, that doesn't do much for the millions of people that have, kind of been walking around with this really deep shame and abandonment and attachment issues and stuff like that.
You know what, man? It's super crazy to hear you say that stuff, because now I'm sitting here trying to. I've tried to psychoanalyze my dad in ways that he's processed this, right? Like,
yeah.
My dad always will see my grandma and grandpa Davis as his parents.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a wrench thrown into this, and now we're going off on an adoption tangent. But my brother was working at a restaurant and actually came in contact with the Bonanno family.
Wow.
And then met his birth mother who gave him up, and now we are in contact with them.
Awesome.
But the crazy thing is, and luckily my dad doesn't listen to this podcast because it'd be like, why the hell are you telling everybody this?
Yeah.
He has this weird I don't know if he has this crazy expectation of what that relationship would look like, but I don't feel like in his mind it's adding up to what he imagined it would be, right?
For sure. Yeah.
And it's something I could never understand, right? So like be like, oh hey, she was in town or something. Like he'll ask me questions because I'm in contact with my grandmother Nan.
Yeah.
And it's super weird. It's a very tricky dynamic, man. And so
Yeah.
it's interesting talking to you being someone who was adopted.
Yeah. And I wanna push back just a little bit, very gently, on one thing you said.
Please do.
And that is that you couldn't understand, but I don't agree. I think that you can more than you may realize, and here's why. So I found my birth family and I met them and I have relationships with them now, and of course, like, I had spent a lifetime building this idea of who they were, what they could be to me. Like, oh my God, like they'll be just like me. Finally, someone who will understand me, or like, my parents were both, my adopted parents were like incredible academics, like super smart, high performers, business, and then I'm like this riffraff, skateboarder, punk, drug addict, alcoholic, right? It's just like, it doesn't add up, right?
Yeah.
And I thought, man, if I meet them, I'll finally be with my people. And that was true. And also the idea I had of them, the idea I had of what our relationship would be if I found them, was nothing like reality, right? And the reason I believe we all have the capacity to understand this is because, like any relationship, we go into it with the idealized version of the other person, right? So we start dating somebody new and we're like, oh my God, like this person is everything I could have ever wanted. Like everything is easy. We don't fight. I love holding her hand. Like we have this romanticized version, the idealized version of them is what we're falling in love with. And then, of course, like everything in this world, we come toe to toe with the reality of it and realize, holy shit, like they're just a person just like me. And we all have flaws. We all have trauma. We all have, attachment issues and this, that, and the other thing. And usually that results in a breakup and you go your own separate ways, or in the rare occasion that you find somebody really special, you stick it out knowing that the work you're going to do to be able to tolerate the other person's trauma and their flaws and this, that, and the other thing, and hold them lovingly is worth it. You know that there's going to be an ROI on that work, right? So up to that point, you could totally empathize with what it is to have a romanticized idea of what a relationship would be, and then realize this ain't going to be it, Yeah. The only difference, of course, is that, couples can break up. You can't really, break up with the people that created you. You know what I mean?
But
yeah.
You can, though.
Yeah, you can.
You can if they're toxic.
That's it, man.
Absolutely. But this is very interesting to me because the other thing I'm thinking is that we all, our parents are our parents and whatever, but there's something that just says to me, like, because someone is your biological sperm or egg donor, it doesn't make you're not just going to be instant friends and simpatico and exactly alike. Of course, there's stories of long lost twins and all that, but like, your parents are the parents that raised you, right? And I'm thinking of this too in the terms of like, I have, blood family that I'm not close with at all. And I have chosen family that I met in recovery and stuff that, I would take a bullet for. And so it's kind of, to say like, oh, just because these people, you want it to work out, of course. I don't know. I'm kind of, I don't have any experience in that, but it's just an interesting thought of like, oh, because we're blood related, we should be X, Y, Z. You know, it's interesting.
Yeah. No, I love what you're speaking to, because, you know, and my therapists love me because I'm such a great little petri dish of just fucked upness and attachment issues. And, oh yeah, by the way, I was adopted. And, oh yeah, by the way, this, that, you know, and they're like, oh my God, this is great. I've got so much shit to do and dig around it. You know? And, you know, it's what, at the end of the day, like, really, you know, my birth family and my adopted family, like, we all, like, my relationships with all of them are complicated and complex and nuanced and full of love and full of pain and full of joy and full of trauma. And like any relationships in the world, that all the dynamics are the same, all the mechanics are the same, even though the dynamics are different. And so I think, like, a lot of my work around this topic in particular is really trying to bridge the gap between this fantasy that has been perpetuated by American society specifically, that family is everything, family is perfect, like, that family is first, like, all these ideas I'm trying to reconcile with the fact that when you hit a certain age, they are just your friends. And the caliber of your friendship is dictated by the caliber of your upbringing. I really believe that. And a lot of times, you know, with my adopted family and my birth family, the same, I did a lot of things during my addiction that created a lot of space between me and my family. I did a lot of things that I'm not proud of, you know, that I've spent a lot of time making amends for. And the same is true for them with me. They did a lot of things that you shouldn't do as parents, you know. And what I try and remember is that my parents, you know, this is their first time living this life too. And if I can become curious about what could have driven their behavior, if I'm curious about how I internalize things that had nothing about me, if I come from a place of curiosity more than resentment, healing can happen, you know. And I think that's true for all relationships. And but like you said, it's sticky out there, man. Families are not an easy thing, you know.
Yeah, well, I love what you're saying too, because I feel like Cameron may have had a moment of maybe he's doing the best he could with what he had, which is what I came to with my dad. But maybe Cameron's thought about this before, or it occurred to him now. But like, oh yeah, my dad was adopted. That must have been a little tough on him. And we've talked about this a lot on here. That generation didn't have mental health awareness, talk, speech. It wasn't part of it. So whatever the fuck he was feeling about that, he had to suck it up and pull himself up by his bootstraps and be a tough guy, you know. So anything, you know, but maybe he's doing the best he could with what he had, you know, the resources given to him.
That's exactly.
Am I on to anything there, Cam?
Yeah, well, you are, and you know, truer words couldn't be spoken. He definitely is one of the most unemotionally intelligent people I've ever met. Right? Like, you could sit here and ask him what's going on, he'd be like, nothing, it's all fine. And be like, pal, like, it's okay if it's not fine, dude. Let's chat about it. And then sometimes I can crack the code. Like, I had an 1.5 hour long conversation with him the other day, and we finally got somewhere on some things that weren't just about how the Raiders are going to suck forever or something, you know. But I think it's really cool, and I think you hit on a really good point there, Jeremy, that, you know, just because they're family doesn't mean that they need to be involved. And another thing that I kind of gauge, I heard it on some motivational page on Instagram or something like that, but the idea of success for this one guy who's hyper successful is that is that, you've seen it, is that his children want to spend time with him once they're 18 years old. That is my entire goal. And you know what? My parents, regardless of me sitting here, you know, passive aggressively telling my dad that he is about as sensitive as a Neanderthal, I love spending time with him. Right? I love spending time with him. I go and I see my mother and my father all the time. And so in my idea, or the way that I envision the world, or the way I see it, they did a damn good job.
Yeah, man.
Because I still want to go talk to them. I still want to be with them. I still love them. And so I couldn't be more blessed in that regard.
Absolutely. And dude, like they're for me, like, I spent a lot of time, finger pointing every which way I could, about,
That's what we do.
Why I'm fucked up, and, to justify bad behavior and feel better about the circumstances that I created for myself. We create our lives. It is a creation of one. And it's a hard thing to embody that. It's a hard thing to impart that on others. But I really do believe that we are the source point of our lives. I mean, everything that is our life is our creation. Now, a lot of people will say, oh, what about when you get cancer? What about, women who've experienced domestic violence? That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about how I hold relationships in my heart and my mind energetically. And when I think about it like that, it's like, my dad didn't show up for me for a long time, and we've had a lot of conversations about it. And um, like you said, mental health wasn't a thing for them, And I chose a long time ago to lead with forgiveness, because when I was forgiven for the things I did throughout my addiction, it made sobriety a little bit easier. And I think that we spend so much time caught up in, they did that, and this happened, and they said that, and I'll never let it go. It's like, dude, we want that to be punishment for the other person, but the only person it punishes is us. It keeps us stuck. It keeps us so stuck. Forgiveness isn't
like
about
drinking poison and expecting them to die.
Exactly, dude. Exactly. And so for me, I was like, you know what, man? Like, forgiveness isn't going to make right what they've done. It means that I've accept what they've done for exactly what it was, and it's just what was. As soon as I make that agreement to let go this animosity that really, it doesn't hurt them one bit, but it keeps me feeling stuck and limited. See you later, dude. I'm out of here. I'm going to forgive as much as I possibly can to bring myself as much peace as I possibly can. And then coincidentally, when you do lead with forgiveness, those conversations about what once was, what happened back then, like what that meant for me, those conversations can then happen and then, more importantly, resolve. But if I show up with my sword and shield, we're not getting a resolution. We're just continuing the fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we have an episode on forgiveness, and we're on this wavelength with you. One of the things that I said we say is like really important is forgiveness doesn't have to be for the other person. It can
totally
be for you, and it doesn't mean you're okay with what they did. Like you said, it just means I don't want to carry this baggage anymore.
That's
I'm
it, man.
holding this heavy, hot lava in my body of anger and sadness and vitriol, whatever, and I want it out. I want it gone so I can move on and be happy. That's all it is. It's not, I'm okay with what you did. You're allowed to do that to me. It's not that at all. It's I'm done with holding this and being upset about it because it's time for me to move on.
That's it, man. Yeah, I couldn't agree anymore, dude. I love that.
And something else you said reminded me. I love that you said we haven't even gotten the second question. This is fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, the Rude Dude Podcast, your new hosts, Jeremy Miller and Forrest Brownell.
Forrest Brownell, we retire. It's been real.
Oh my God. That's so funny.
But so you take away the adoptive part, and you take away what was the other thing that wasn't part of my story? I forget, but other than that, we are the same person. The ADD, the tests very well, but doesn't apply themselves in school.
Yeah.
Falling in love and getting the heart broken, and it's the same story. And as I was listening to that, it was making me think, you and I, and Cameron, all of us, myself in particular, I'll speak for myself. I thought I was the only one. Right. I was the only one who felt this way. I was the only one that the world sucked for, and I was the only one who had these problems. And that's the beauty of getting in the program. And like you talked about connection, because I sit here and I listen to you tell my story, and then I get to go, oh, I'm not the only one. Oh, this guy understands me. And then we get to have these conversations and kind of work through this shit, because you've been in my shoes and I've been in your shoes. We have the same fucking story. And that's the beauty of, like you talked about, this connection that we have in recovery.
Yeah, dude. It is probably my favorite thing, and at least for me in my life, the most important thing, my biggest mission, my biggest to do, whatever words you want to put to it. But there's this idea that your shoes and my shoes are different. And, there's like sayings about it, like if you could walk a mile in my shoes. But the truth is, like, we're all wearing the same shoes. We are. And, some people are wearing Nikes. I'm wearing Converse. You know what I mean? Like, there may be slight variations, but at the fundamental level, it is my belief that the more we lead with authenticity, the more I can say, hey, like, I spent the better part of a decade like drinking and drugging because I felt like there was no way I'd be able to offer the world anything of value. Show me 10 people and I can find at least 8 that have felt that very same way at some point. And the other 2 may not have felt exactly that, but they felt a variation of it. And so, the reason I'm a movie guy, right? So the reason we like movies is because we resonate with the main character, and the main character always has their plights and their ailments. And by the third act, you see this main character like come around and, acclimate to their new world, take on these traits that were once hindrances. And we want that for ourselves, and we want that for each other. And so it is real to me that, everybody in recovery, everybody at large, like, we are all suffering from some sort of idea that we're not enough, we're not good enough, we're good but never great, that if we just do one more thing, we'll finally make it, we'll finally have X, Y, or Z. And the truth is, like, we look for healing everywhere, but really we just have to look to each other. And when we look to each other, we see ourselves, and I think that that's it's a very, very simplistic kind of view, but for me, it feels true,
Yeah, dude, I agree with all that, man. And I think I'm gonna backtrack just a tad, and I just wanted to say your take on forgiveness was something that Henry reiterated as well, that we all kind of share. I think it's something that is so vital for us to stay sober and us staying successful.
Oh yeah.
The fact that we are the people that maintain sobriety are able to just quote unquote wash our hands of it and be done with it brings me personally more peace than any facet of my recovery journey. Right. Hey, here it is. And by no means am I saying that when somebody does me wrong or something wrong, I don't immediately cop that resentment. That's just human nature, right? Like, hey, I'm pissed off at this exact moment. But dude, like, being able to offload that luggage is the greatest gift that has been given to me. And I just had to jump in and say that, because it's absolutely just the best, man. I love that shit, dude.
Yeah, no, I love that. And it's funny because when I think about, like, like Henry said, I worked in treatment for a long time, and when it came to making amends and righting our wrongs and things of that nature, forgiveness is that was a topic that got a lot of. Anytime forgiveness came up, my door was getting slammed a lot. You know what I'm saying? People get pretty fired up when it's time to forgive.
Dude.
Yeah, exactly. People say,
he's a piece of shit.
Yeah, people go, "You know my fucking dad? If you knew my fucking dad," and I said, "Dude, like, all right." But what's interesting about about the mind and about human beings. So we got these egos, right? And ego says, if I forgive them, I'm absolving them. They owe me an apology. They owe me this. And it's like, what a funny thing. Like if you get up to 30,000 feet and you look down at just that concept, it seems silly as shit to me, right? Like, so my ego tries to convince me that in order for me to feel better, I am reliant on this person apologizing to me, as if somehow two words from somebody else will make all the bad feeling go away. Now, I'm not advocating that we don't apologize to each other. I'm not advocating that we get rid of meaningful apologies by any means. But what a source point for suffering, to rely our happiness, our joy, our peace on contingent on somebody else's showing up the way we want them to. And so for me, like early in my recovery, I learned like there were some people who did not forgive me when I was making amends. Most did, but a handful didn't. And I understand, like I was a fucking piece of shit. I did a lot of terrible things. And, if someone did those things to me now, I'd have a hard time too, and when it came time for me to forgive a lot of others in my life, I ran into that stickiness too, but the minute I did, I felt my body feel lighter. I felt a smile come to my face a little easier. And I said, dude, you know what? Like anything I can do, even if it increases my potential for sobriety 1 more minute by 1%, I'm going to fucking do it. Why wouldn't I? And so for those that are kind of stuck in that, like, should I forgive? It's too much. What they did was too much. Hey, dude, like if you can hold it as something that happened and you can say, you know what, that happened back there. I'm going to give myself a month. I'm not going to think about it. I'm not going to stir myself up about it. I'm going to say, you know what, I'm going to think about this 30 days from now. You will feel lighter. And that's just a taste of what forgiveness, acceptance can do. And that's important, I think, for us in recovery.
It is, dude, and it actually is a virtue that was, and I'm not getting religious, but that's a very Christian type of view. I mean, that's
totally.
like over 2,000 years, right? And there's a reason why he said that, right? It was for that exact reason.
That's it, man.
Don't harbor those resentments. Forgive everybody. Love your enemies, forgive them all, man. It's not worth it, right? And it's funny when you sit here and you talk about it, but dude, like this isn't some modern day fucking invention. Like bro, like this was spitted 2,000 years ago in Israel.
That's it, man. Yeah, dude.
Actually invented by my sister, who created boundaries, as we learned a couple weeks back. Okay,
all right, well, let's get to our questions before he fucking freezes on his balcony, bro.
Yeah, dude. I feel bad. We're only on the second question, dude. I get like this sometimes, bro.
Hey, I told you we just go with the flow, and I think we're having great conversations. I mean,
right on.
I do want to touch on one other thing you said in there, though, because I was listening to a podcast today, and it wasn't recovery related, but they were talking about making repairs. And in essence, what they were talking about in our terms is making amends.
Yeah.
And what she was talking about, one of the things that you said was that we're relying on, they owe me an apology, and what they were talking about was at that point, you're relying on someone else to make you better or to make you feel better, whatever. And we have to do this like self-healing, self-soothing. She talked about that was the thing you do before you make the repair. You check in with yourself and get yourself right. And also they were talking about like yelling at your kids, right? And people who say I'm sorry, and they need their kids to say it's okay, mommy, to make themselves feel better. But it's not your child's job to make you feel better, just like it's not anyone else's job that you think owes you an apology to make you feel better. This only we can make ourselves feel better. And like by doing that letting go, you're allowing yourself to feel better. And it reminds me of another thing that I was taught, like we give of ourselves without the expectation of a result.
Yeah.
So we forgive without the expectation of result. We apologize or make amends without the expectations of result, because we don't control what other people do or how they react or how they respond. But we keep our side of the street clean, as we say. So I can apologize, or I can make an amends, or I can offer my help to someone. But if they don't listen, or they don't accept it, or they don't want to forgive me, that's fine. That doesn't have anything to do with me. I have no control over that. So, but I give it up, and then I let it go.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love what you're saying, dude. Let me ask you bros this. Have you guys ever read A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle?
I haven't.
I'm not.
Okay, so put that one at the top of your reading list, dude. It's probably like I would say it's my favorite, my number one like self-help book. I read this book and it totally changed my fucking life, like top to bottom.
Interesting.
And it deals with ego. That's the whole kind of the theme of the text is really about ego. And something interesting that Eckhart speaks to is like, okay, so a lot of times we'll be sitting here like needing something from the external, whether it's like just universally needing something like, God, like I feel really lonely and I would love like some attention, or I feel really sad. I would love for someone to make me laugh, or I feel, yeah, like approval, all these things, right? And Eckhart essentially, and I'm going to totally butcher this, but paraphrased, it's the idea is that we can sit around all day and expect things of the universe, but we really know that's not quite how the universe works. And so while I could sit here and wish that my dad had modeled what it is to be connected to your feelings, while I could wish that my dad would call me up one day and say, dude, you know what, like I didn't show up for you back then, and I wish I had. I can sit here and wish until I'm blue in the face, and it won't bring it any closer to my reality, that wishing. What would, however, is if what I requested of the universe, what I wished for, I gave instead. So, for example, my dad, I really wish that he had taught me, or at least modeled to me, what it is to name an emotion and talk about it. Well, I wished for that for a long time, but I never considered that the man I'm wishing it from was literally programmed not to for his entire life, right? So why the fuck would I sit here and wish him to just one day on a dime undo all of his programming, right? Over 65 years of program, right? What if instead I gave it to him? What if instead of wanting that from him, I said, hey, Dad, dude, I don't want this to land too heavily with you, and I certainly don't want to hurt your feelings. I just want to open a conversation and let you know that I've been doing a lot of personal work, and in that, I've kind of realized that there were a lot of times, especially in high school, where I was struggling and I didn't feel like I had anyone to talk to about it. And that was like super hard for me. And I felt like when you asked, if everything was okay, if I didn't answer with a positive, it was treated almost like you rolled your eyes, like it's one more problem you've got to deal with. And that hurt my feelings, man. And I'm not trying to make you feel bad. I just want you to know. Now, if I say that to my dad, he's going to be a lot more likely then to reciprocate and say, dude, you know what? Like, man, back then, like I was trying to close deals in my business to like keep food on the table. And I had $20, in my bank account. I didn't know when the next paycheck was coming. I didn't know if we'd have food. And boom, all of a sudden, my dad is sharing with me his feelings. He's putting words to his experience. And that's what I wanted. I got it not from sitting around wishing for it, but for giving it to the universe instead. And it's universally applied. You can do it in your relationship with your partner, with your parents, with your friends, with your pets. Like, it is the universal language, I believe. And so while I can hinge my inner peace, my inner landscape on someone else doing something, if I want to take control and be proactive in my life, I'm going to do the thing I want them to do first. And a lot of times, sometimes it doesn't work out. Sometimes it's not reciprocated. But you know what? I fucking went for it. I tried. And that in and of itself brings a lot more peace than sitting around wondering. You know what I mean?
Yeah, dude.
Yes, sir. Are you frozen, Cam? Or I'm frozen.
You are frozen.
You look like you're meditating, though, dude. I thought I put you in a trance or something there, dude.
What if my face could be like, I wish this motherfucker would shut the fuck up?
I know, dude. That's how I felt. That's how I felt, dude. No joke.
Dude, I didn't even notice. I was so locked in. So yeah, we're still recording. I'm gonna pause it. Yeah.
Carry on. Oh,
we are back.
Right on.
All right, we're back, dude.
Technical difficulties, and Germ now has a hoodie and a blankie. He's fucking ready for action.
I'm blankied.
What's funny is I made maybe a more complete outline than I almost ever do for a podcast, and we have done almost none of it. And how this works, some guests, and you probably know, Jeremy, some guests you have to drag along by their fucking ear, and they give you one word answer. You obviously are not one of those people. So we're just cruising along, but I feel like what we're talking about is so much more interesting than the questions I have. But I do want to get into the Elevate stuff a little bit.
Sure. Yeah, let's do it, man.
Did you is that where you went for rehab, and was that your first try, and did you stay clean your first try?
Yeah. So I went to Narconon, which is it's a little bit of a different treatment experience than most get. All of the programming is based on L. Ron Hubbard stuff. And so, and the programs were insanely long. Like, my program was almost, let's see. So my program was like like a week shy of 6 months. And so it was very, very different. And, you know, now, like, that I'm older, I kind of look back at that, and a lot of times people are like, holy shit, like Scientology, oh my God. And it's like, yeah, man, you know, like, I didn't know it was when I signed up. And even like the first couple of weeks I was there, I was like, yo, like, I didn't think this is what like rehab would be about. You know what I mean? Like, I'm doing some weird shit and I'm cool with it, but like, this isn't quite like what I pictured, you know? And so like a couple of weeks in, funnily enough, I was like, 'cause I'd never even heard of Scientology in my life. You know, this is 2009. Like, I don't know if I was sheltered or what, but like, I just didn't know, you know? And so one day I'm smoking out by the gym, ironically, and a bunch of people were like, yeah, this is like Scientology shit and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, wow, okay, well,
a little science, huh?
What's Scientology mean? I don't even, you know, and so anyways, when I finished treatment, I signed on to work there, and so let's see, how many years was that? So for 5 years, just under 6 years, it was Narconon, the Scientology based stuff. And then around 2015, leadership at the program decided they wanted to take another stab at it and take a different approach. And so a couple of my coworkers, and then a couple like they 1099'd a couple people, wrote the Elevate program and rolled that out. And that's of course what Henry attended. But yeah, it was my first time in treatment, only time in treatment. Here I am all these years later, still standing, dude. Got a little wobbly around 2014. But nothing crazy, dude. Nothing that like I didn't fall off the wagon or, throw my fucking life away or anything like that.
You were peeking over the edge, though.
Peeking over the edge is a good way to put it, dude. I was flirtatious,
Yeah.
But yeah, man. So a different kind of treatment, and but here I am, so do with that what you will, you know what I mean?
So I had been to 2 rehabs, and they were like most, just basically an NA related program, and we attended meetings and stuff. And I went to, I came to Elevate, and they've got me like finger painting with like a hippie lady in art class, which is actually cool as shit. Like I'm fine with it. It was a lot about mindfulness, and it was not NA or AA related. I'm gonna jump back, dude. ADHD brain. So Cameron mentioned Bonanos, and that's really fucking cool because I thought it was off limits because like they're the mob and we don't talk about it. So this is a glorious day for me. We got to announce that Cameron.
That's my bloodline, bro. Millionaires,
actually has
bro.
mob ties.
Millionaires, bro.
There we go.
I'm talking full on tracksuits. Like,
yeah, dude.
The real deal, bro.
So that's awesome. But what's also awesome is that this was like a scandal to us clients, right?
Oh, yeah.
We found out somehow about the Scientology stuff, and everybody was like, it's not Scientology anymore, but also like, don't fucking talk about Scientology. And I don't remember exactly how it was, but they were like, don't say that. You don't say that in front of the other clients. It could screw them up. And I do get the reasoning of like, hey, you don't want to scare people off, whatever. But it was a weird, like, hush hush thing. And then I think the catalyst for what made it worse is one day in the TV room, that famous woman, I forget her name, she had just made that documentary about Scientology.
Oh, Leah Remini.
Leah Remini. And we watched it in the TV room, and there was some similarities, and we were like, this shit is fucking Scientology. There was like when you broke a rule and you had made a there was, I forget what it's called, but you get like a punishment. You had to rake leaves and shit. Yeah, and that was like a Scientology principle. And like I raked a lot of fucking leaves. Let's just put it that way. And if you didn't break any rules for the whole week, you got a rewards trip. So needless to say, in my 121-ish day tenure, I only had one fucking rewards trip of 3 months worth of weekends. But anyway, we saw that and we were like, dude, this is still kind of Scientology. It wasn't like a bad, but that was a very strange. So my thing was girls, as he alluded to. Me and this one particular girl were quite flirtatious, but it was very like forbidden. And that's what kind of made it more fun. It was like very secretive. And I would be in Danielle's office all like, we think you have a relationship. We think you like her. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't even know. I'm not even sure what you're and but dude, it was like it was a weird thing, man. It was a very and I stand by, I don't think for better or worse, I don't think all the Scientology principles completely went away after Narconon was gone.
Yeah, so and you and I had texted a little bit about this offline, just making sure we got the all clear to go there. And a lot of my my reluctance around so when we were a Narconon, there was there's a lot of flaws with the Narconon program. If somebody today came to me and said, "Hey, Jeremy, dude, I'm thinking about sending my kid to a Narconon," I would say no. And that's interesting to me, being that like I'm still sober. You know what I mean? And there aren't nearly as many as there were back in the day. And the ones that are still here, I honestly don't know how many there are, where they are, what they're up to. It's been so long. But I was, I was on leadership when the decision was made, not senior leadership, but one level down, when the decision was made to switch. And it was made because a lot of the principles and practices were like archaic. It was super old. It was super outdated. We're not talking about trauma. We're not really dealing with what we felt as a team were kind of the things that required attention, And so when the Elevate program was written, it was written in a way very consciously to not include any Scientology, anything, because it was hard enough trying to get people to go to a Scientology rehab. Yeah. And to my surprise, it was even harder to get people to go to a rehab that was once Scientology, but was no longer. And a lot of times people hear Scientology and fucking just like freak out, even though 99% of it is literally just like reading books and like, like there's weird shit, and that's for another podcast that I'd be happy to do. But when it came to Elevate, like any remnants were there that were left over were very much like, okay, what about the structure of like, you got 80 people living in a building, and like, okay, so most programs, if you get in trouble, you just get routed out. You just get sent home. And, or, you meet with your therapist, you talk about it, and then nothing changes. And so, Henry, your example is a perfect one because it's like one of very few things that transitioned over. And that is, well, when you're in a group of people and this group of people is really serious about like getting better and, and it's hard to cohabitate a small place for 3 or 4 months, especially when you can't have your drugs, And so, people are going to break the rules. What can we do to encourage responsibility? What can we do to get people's skin in the game, so to speak, where it's like, we don't want to send you home, but you've got to do something. And that was one thing where it's just undeniably effective. And there's no theology behind it. There's no like, oh, we're trying to break you down before we build you up. Even though that's not part of Scientology, it's often assimilated with Scientology, right? But as far as like the core curriculum, Tots wrote that whole program. Tots wrote with a couple other people. And you remember Tots?
The name is ringing a bell, but I can't like put a face to it.
The Japanese dude.
Oh,
super
okay.
fit.
Yeah.
And we had hired like a couple of people that had been clinical directors at other programs because we wanted it to be different, cutting edge. And that's where we said, you know what, like, let's bring in fitness and mindfulness, two things that most programs aren't doing that coincidentally everybody's doing now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Trendsetters.
Yeah. Well, and I don't, as I've mentioned before on this podcast, it's never our purpose to like put somebody down or drag them through the dirt. I have nothing but a good experience there. There was some stuff that I thought was weird, but it was also just a non-traditional rehab experience.
Yeah, that's for sure, dude.
Yeah. And it's not a negative. I said, I think I still use things from that program today, but, awesome. But it was, dude, mindfulness, that you guys were ahead of the curve on mindfulness. And
yeah, big time.
Dude, Cam, when I tell you these motherfuckers would try to make me sit there, I mean, they would make me sit there for 15 minutes, eyes closed, meditation, and I'm fucking spinning, dude.
Yeah, dude.
And then we would do eyes open meditation, which was really cool. We'd sit overlooking like this like cliffside out in Monterey. And then there was stuff for my little ADD brain to look at.
Yeah.
But that was really cool. And there was one step, I'm sure obviously you guys borrowed from some other programs, but the one thing I definitely remember was the responsibility step. Is that what it was called?
Yeah.
Basically, I always describe it to people as it's basically a 4th step.
It is. Right? That's what it is, man. Yeah. So when the responsibility step was a huge piece, and we were super clear, like we didn't want to be 12-step based, because Scientology was a religious kind of way of going at things. We didn't want to replace one for another, and so we decided against the 12 steps. And but the 4th step in particular, there's so much evidence to suggest. I mean, it's so efficient. And I think that, at least my theory is that while it was being incorporated, it was like, okay, we don't want to, we were very careful not to edge ourselves into a shame-based model, right? Like, I don't think that 12 steps inherently shame-based. I think that it is shame is very easily created in the 12 steps.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that depends on what room you're in and who's in there with you, but as a program, it was very important. Like, we don't want to create more shame. We want to take things that happened, look at them, under a microscope, take responsibility for them, let them go and move on,
I think that's interesting. Sorry, dude. I got to jump in.
Okay.
I think it's super interesting hearing a different approach outside of the 12 steps, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Like it's just odd to me, right? Because that's all I've known. And you hear about these treatment facilities like non-12 step base, and I've always just been curious, like, well, what the hell does that even look like?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
is it like there's just this hodgepodge of mindfulness and then a wicked stepsister version of a step 4, and then we call it a day, and you rake leaves on the side, kind of, and we watch Henry chase ass. I mean,
yeah. I mean,
that was a terrible bastardization of what we did at Elevate.
I'm just fucking around, but
but dude, you're touching on something that's important to me. Like I hit the rooms long before I went to Narconon, and I have nothing but love for the 12 steps. And I think that, for what the 12 steps are, they have done more for our community than really anything else on planet Earth. And a lot of people that, seek alternative treatment have a lot of shit to talk about the 12 steps, but that's a callback to very early in this conversation about pointing the finger at everything, trying to kind of pacify this reality that we created what we're in, and so, at Elevate, it was a lot of like cognitive behavioral therapy, like how you think, how you feel, and how does that inform behavior. It was a lot of like process group, really kind of standard treatment shit. Just instead of 12 steps, it was like smart recovery, mindfulness based recovery. We did like refuge recovery for a while until all that shit went down. And so, yeah, it was kind of like everything but the 12 steps, everything you find at any other treatment center, except for the 12 steps.
Yeah. And another thing, and here we are again, finding pieces to the puzzle of what my current program looks like now. If I remember right, I think it was after dinner, before dinner. I'm pretty sure it's after dinner. There was exercise, and you could either work out at the gym. At minimum, you had to walk laps around the spot, or they would also take you to a CrossFit gym.
Yeah.
And that was every day. That's planned. That's part of your day. And it's these habits I build. And what do I do after work every day that I can, 3 or 4 days a week? I go to the gym.
That's it.
And it's part of my recovery. It's part of my life. It's just encouraging this like action. Like, how do we fill our time with things other than getting drunk or high, right? So
yeah, and it was mandatory. And and since you left, they built a CrossFit gym up there.
Nice.
Yeah, so there's a CrossFit gym on the property now up there. I haven't been there in a while. But yeah, fitness was mandatory, and that was universally important to everybody on the staff. I mean, fitness for me personally, I've I've been working out since like I was 2 weeks sober, and I can't tell you any other routine or regimen that has maintained for that long. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I mean, I talk about it at nauseum on here, and I always say, as protocol would state, I got to the gym because I love going before I record because I have more energy. I always feel like I do a better show if I work out before I record.
Yep.
Do you have something, Cam?
Oh, no. I mean, I guess I see how that could be a successful program, right? It's more of a a modern take on living, right? Like here's a healthier way of dealing with emotions instead of going with this rigid 12-step program, right? It's a different process. So I could see it being successful, and I actually do see Henry implement some of those things. It's now starting to add up because I can sit here and look at how he runs his program, right?
Yeah.
And me and him have talked about our programs together. You know, like what does mine look like? What does his look like? And, you know, we roughly got sober at the same time, like 6 years ago. So we kind of share this same thing and how it evolves. But the fitness thing, like he just said, it clearly came from that. I don't know if meditation will ever come to it because Henry just can't do it. Some people can't do it, man. Some people can't do it. That's not a dig at Hen. It's just
I got
hard.
into it the last time I got out of treatment. I really did, and then I just don't make time for it. But I do enjoy it.
Yeah.
But I also say the gym is my meditation. So I ADHD brain. When I got my music jamming and I'm lifting weights, when I have those two things to keep my brain occupied, I'm fucking meditating, and I'll put that up against anyone. I believe that in the bottom of my soul, dude. The world is gone. I'm not thinking about anything, worried about anything. I'm fucking getting after it, and I'm in my zone. Like that is my meditation.
I love it, dude. Yeah, that's awesome.
So I'll ask this question: What do you do now? Do you work in recovery still, or what does life look like for you right now, bro?
Yeah, dude. So so I worked in treatment, you know, pretty much since 2009. You know, I got my KDAC and stuff like that, and you know, I left Elevate in March 2020, ironically. And I felt like at the time I had been like far too singular with my efforts. You know, I was doing business development at the time I left, you know, so I went from overseeing all the clinical to, you know, outreach and, you know, trying to build the biz out in the world a little more. And I saw and met, you know, thousands of people doing incredible work. And I felt really called to support the industry as a whole rather than just like one program, you know. And so I worked with TJ Woodward at Conscious Recovery for a little bit of time, and then during COVID, I took a job at a little outpatient in Los Gatos, California, called Embodied Recovery. And then I had this wild idea. Like I was still pretty unfulfilled. I knew I wanted to do my own thing, but didn't quite know what it was. And so anytime I don't know what to do, I just sit outside and wait. You know, I don't have my phone. I just kind of sit outside. I look around and I just think and I wait for whatever's there to emerge. And so I'm walking laps at my old house, and I had this idea, like, you know, I was going to school for music and film. You know, I wanted to make music and make movies. That was like my thing since I was like 5 years old, you know, and I hadn't really worked on that at all. And I thought to myself, God, I wonder if I could marry those two, like my love of filmmaking and my love of behavioral health, you know, the industry that we're in. And then I had this crazy fucking idea, like, I wonder if I could like go around and make little movies for treatment centers of like what they do, you know, and I go online and I look at rehabs and all their videos are just so fucking terrible. Like they feel like ads, you know, like it's just like, oh yeah, at Serenity Monterey, like we do CBT and DBT and EMDR and ACT and, you know, start your new life today. And there's sad piano and like pictures of the house and like, you know, they're like staging photos, like all the staff are like pretending to be clients. And I was like, dude, this is such bullshit. Like
some stock
like,
photo of like a
dude,
fake homeless person.
Yeah, dude, like and they all hammer on the pain of what it is to be an addict, as if like we don't fucking know already. You know, like nobody knows better than us, dude. Why are you telling me how bad it is to be an alcoholic? You know what I mean? Like, and so they're all hammering the pain, but they're not speaking at all to recovery, which is the joy, the pleasure, the vitality. That's life. That's the goal. Why the fuck aren't we talking about it? Like, the people that work in this industry are salt of the earth. They're the most magnificent people on planet Earth. And they're using acronyms that nobody understands. Like what, there's this huge disconnect, you know? And so anyways, I'm thinking all that. And I so I called up my best bud at the time. We were doing a podcast, and his name's Dallas. And I called him up and I said, dude, I've got this crazy idea that we should get a bunch of like film equipment and start making videos for behavioral health. And he said, yeah, dude, let's do it, you know? And so I called a colleague of mine who's run a bunch of like extremely successful treatment centers. She's been in the game 30 years. And I called her up and I said, hey, I've got this idea and I need you to tell me if it's crazy or if I should do it, you know? And so I pitched her on the idea. She said, you should do it. We bought a camera, bought some gear, and that's what we do now, man.
Nice, dude.
Fuck yeah.
First off, let's not talk about how the greatest rehab commercial ever to exist, Passages Malibu.
Oh,
I
God,
used to be an addict.
Now I'm not.
Now I'm not.
Yeah, dude.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Because that's the zinger of all zingers, dude.
All
I've seen
zingers.
that commercial, dude. Gave me
Yeah.
hope, dude. Passages Malibu could do it. I could do it, bro.
That's it, dude.
Anybody in recovery knows
That's it.
is like, well, that's fucking ridiculous because we're addicts for the rest of our lives. And
That's
that guy's
it.
dead, by the way.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, he's dead. Yeah, man. Yeah.
That's awesome.
That was
turns
the
out
fuel,
that
dude.
was a lie.
Yep.
I do want to talk about some more elevate stuff, but we don't need to go backwards. I have to say that responsibility step. I want to tell people about it. It was wild. So instead, when you got to the responsibility step, there was a curriculum in the program, and you had to finish the curriculum to graduate. So it wasn't necessarily an amount of time, but you had to finish the curriculum, and people did it at their own speed. It took roughly 3 months. But when you got to the responsibility step, you didn't do the regular classwork, whatever shit. You sat in this main building with the other people who were on it and just wrote all fucking day long. I
All
mean,
day.
most of the day you sat there and you wrote stories. And it was like there was different layers of life. You did each one by one, and you had to write what I was told, like every time you ever got drunk or high, no matter if anything bad happened or whether you hurt anybody or not, and you have to like finish it with what your part was in it and whatever. I'm kind of butchering it. But I give that like so much credit for, first of all, I was able to see patterns in what I did a lot. And where I went wrong. And then second of all, I was able to like let those things go and forgive myself for those things. And I also, I don't know if you probably didn't hear about this, but I started getting in trouble because I started naming them. Like, Cameron, you'll love this. I wrote, oh, you were part of this story. Remember the night I ditched you guys when we went to the party from Spaghetti Factory? The girl from Spaghetti. So I labeled that story because I had relations with one of the women there, and I labeled that story "Spaghetti Makes You Ready." And the blonde woman was like, "You gotta fucking stop doing this. You can't be naming these stories."
Oh shit! Yeah, that sounds about right.
I almost went to jail that night, dude, because of your fucking shenanigans, bro.
I wasn't driving. She was driving. We fucking lost him. I was with the girl. He was in the other car.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, but yeah,
I love it, dude.
That responsibility step, man, was really cool. And I credit it for just being an open book now, I guess, because you had to sit there and like a lot of my mishaps were portrayed against women.
Yeah.
And I had to hand this paper off to a woman in a room with like 30 people. They didn't read it aloud, of course, but she would sit there and read it. And I would just be like, oh my God. And they'd be like, good, thank you.
Yeah.
And then you just keep going. So that was a wild experience, but it was a really good one. So kudos on the responsibility step.
Yeah, man. I'm glad that it's still with you. You know what I mean? You know, and when I went through treatment at Narconon, there was something similar, a lot of differences, but some similarities. And dude, like, I remember like coming away from it just being like in a somewhat disbelief of the fact that I was still standing. You know what I mean? And that's an important thing, man. I mean, I think like in recovery, we don't give ourselves credit often enough for what we endured. Usually it's like, oh, I can't believe I put myself through that. And, but dude, I mean, you want to talk about resilience, find me a drug addict. You know what I mean? Like they fucking endure the worst possible conditions just to use one more time, And when we sign up for recovery, we take that same resilience with us, but sometimes forget that we have it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's you know what, man? I'm gonna take that little nugget with me, man. That's a good
Do
one.
it.
Because
Right on.
sometimes you can get kicked in the nuts, right? And be like, well, shit, man. Some of that resilience to get loaded every day. If I could just lean on that today, I can get through this day, right?
That's it. That's it.
You forget about it. You forget
Yeah.
about it, right? Like,
Yeah,
I don't.
exactly.
Well, it's like they say, does the crackhead wake up and say, I don't think I'll smoke crack today?
Exactly,
Hell no.
dude.
They're going to figure out a way to get their motherfucking crack.
That's it.
That's
That's
it.
it.
Dude. That's it, man.
Yeah, man.
And that's it. So yeah, kudos on that. And let's so I think we kind of touched on this, but I'll ask you again. What is your favorite part of recovery?
My favorite part is I mean, my favorite part of my personal recovery is that I get to wake up and live the life I've built, and that's that, I think much deeper than that, it's just passing the torch, dude. I think I made a promise to myself. I was in treatment maybe like 2 or 3 weeks in, and all these strangers, these people that didn't know me, that had never met me before, cared for me very deeply, and that really moved me. It was very unfamiliar to me. It was very surreal to me that these people that just met me could care for my life the way these people did. And when it dawned on me that the reason they care for my life the way they had is because somebody had cared for theirs, I made a promise that I'd be really, really open with what I've learned, what I've gained, what I've lost, how I got it, how I lost it, that I would share my phone number with anybody on planet Earth, and that if no matter who it is, where they are, what's going on, if they call, I'll answer. If they text, I'll reply. And if they ask for help, I'll help. And I made that promise, and I've honored it every single day since. And that's my favorite part, man. And that's how we keep this recovery train running, man, is by passing the torch, passing the baton, and helping everybody we can, man. And that is my favorite part.
Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah. Absolutely. The one of the best things I ever heard in a lead one time, this woman said, we don't get pulled out of the fire to walk away. We
That's
get
it.
pulled out of the fire, and then we have to, it's our responsibility to turn around and pull up the rest of our people out of the fire.
That's it,
like,
dude.
Damn, that's fucking right.
I like to tell Henry that all the time, like, regardless of the size of this podcast and our goals and our aspirations for it, like, this is our attempt at doing that, right? Like we sit back and it's how can we help in some way, right?
Yeah.
And there's no better feeling than that, bro. And I'm glad that you share that sentiment, and I'm glad that Henry, my partner, feels the same way, right? Like, Henry's one of the most empathetic people I know, man. Like dude gives it with his heart to these people, and when they don't get it, you can see it and you can hear it in his voice that it hurts him. Like it hurts him when an addict that he knows out there in West Virginia doesn't get it, right?
Yeah.
And it's a reality in our world,
of course.
But it's sad, right? Because we want to give that light. So hats off to you for that, bro. That's a good one, man. I do have one question for you, because I kind of lurked your page and I love what you're doing, dude. Did you meet fucking Novak, dude?
Oh yeah. Yeah. So Brandon Novak, what a character that guy, dude. Yeah. So he, So we've done a couple events where so my good friend owns a detox in Hollister and then a residential down in Avila Beach, and she'll do like she does like a lot of drug education and stuff like that, and she'll always try and get Novak to come out and speak. And anytime she does, we throw the camera gear in the car and go out and film it, because the guy is just such a fucking trip that it's like, dude, roll the cameras, we're gonna get something good. And B,
does he have bars, recovery bars?
Oh, dude, yeah. I mean, he's got like pretty much one speech, but it's so good that I don't mind hearing it over and over. Like, and yeah, so yeah, we've got we've had the opportunity to work together a handful of times. Yeah, he's a cool dude.
Nice, dude. Nice.
Yeah.
As a skateboarder and a jackass connoisseur from that generation, that's awesome, bro.
Yeah,
that's
dude.
like when we see our buddy Alan Hannon. He made it in the skateboarding world. He's out. He works for Primitive. He's
awesome,
hanging out with Paul Rodriguez and everybody.
Oh yeah,
watch like it's no big deal. So I think it's cool when I saw that, dude.
Oh, dude, yeah, and when we met him, I mean, all me and Dal talked about was skating, dude, because we're both skater kids, and I'll still get out and push around, and yeah, it's pretty fun to talk skate culture with someone who's also sober. You know what I mean? It's cool.
Yeah. So last question is, since you went to that program and what does your program look like? Do you do NAA meetings at all, or do you not? And what else do you do? What?
Yeah, so I do meetings sometimes. I like to treat it like a fancy meal. It's not every day, but it's definitely every once in a while. When I feel distant from recovery, when I feel like maybe I'm not as close as I'd like to be, I go to a meeting. And that's where I get juiced up. I like being around people, whether they're on day one or day 1 million. I mean, I don't care. I'm reluctant to, like, sometimes I go to meetings and I don't even share how long I've been sober. I don't like people looking up to me like I have elevation on them. But regardless, that's just like some weird personal thing. But I love going to meetings. I just don't do it every day, So my program is I create, dude. I'm a creator in my nature. It's what I do. I make things. I make podcasts, videos, like I write. I do a lot of writing. I'm working on a documentary that'll probably start in a couple of months that I'm super excited about. And that's what I do, dude. Like I don't feel recovery needs to look any one way for anybody. It's also important that people don't hear this and do as I do. I've been at this for a long time. And so, my recovery years 1 through 5 looks a lot different than years 5 through 10 and 10 through 15, and now I know that if I'm not creating, if I'm not writing, if I'm not, allowing my gift to be shared, that's when I signal there's a problem. And so I just create, man. That's what I do.
Yeah, I love that. I wasn't saying that like you should or need to be. That's why I was curious, because Cameron and I say the same thing. Like, we have one meeting a week, no matter fucking what. On Thursdays at 4 p.m. Pacific, he and I was just telling my dad this, like, we don't really care if no one ever listens. We fucking love doing this and having this time and talking to each other,
Yep.
And that's a big part of our program. Like, this will keep me clean today. Doing this and staying busy, doing things you're passionate about, and staying tied in recovery. I just talked about, 3 guys that I work with are in recovery. So we talk about it all day, every day. Like, not all day, every day, but something comes up and we talk about it like healed people talk, and we process it and we bounce shit off each other, and we tell each other when we're fucking having trouble, whatever. We stay connected.
Yeah, dude.
The connection.
Yeah. And with your pod, dude, it doesn't matter how many people listen, dude. If one person hears it tomorrow and it helps them get through the day, then it's worth it, man. Right. And like every creation you put out into the world, dude, will serve at least one, even if it's just you, And I'm a very firm believer in that. So, you guys just keep at it, dude. Just keep going, keep pumping out content. Like, if you got one download a week, dude, it's worth it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I appreciate
Well,
that.
and you think of that in terms of saving one life, man. One life is worth a fucking lot, brother.
That's it, man.
All right. Well, then let's get to this, and then we'll wrap up with our final question. What grinds your gears, bro? Give us a grind your gears.
Yeah, I'll tell you what grinds my gears, dude.
All right.
And I'll tie it into recovery.
Okay.
What grinds my gears is rigidity. I like nuance. I like to be malleable. I like to be open. And so what really grinds my gears is this idea that the way something is, or the nature of things is stuck. That just grinds my gears. And in recovery, what it sounds like is, what worked for me will work for you, or this doesn't work for anybody, or this will work for everybody. Those things feel very rigid to me, or like we've always done it this way, so we're going to continue to do it this way. That rigidity, it doesn't work well with me, and that is part of my ADHD, dude. Like I am not rigid at all. I'm all over the fucking place,
We're not rule followers either.
Yeah, dude. Like, and but really, like, I feel like what lubes up my gears, if we could play the opposite, because I like staying in the positive.
Ooh, absolutely.
What lubes them up, dude, is the nuance, man. Is openness and curiosity, dude. So whatever the opposite is of that grinds my gears, bros.
I love it, dude.
So we lubed you up when we didn't ask our second question until 45 minutes into the podcast.
Be like, dude. In the famous words of Bruce Lee, dude, be like water.
Be water, dude. That's exactly it. Yes, sir.
Told my daughter that
I totally agree. I can't stand that people like follow the rules just because they're the rules. Like, certainly there are some that are important, but just because someone said we should do it this way, if that's not the best way to do it, then we shouldn't do that.
Amen.
And Cameron and I are perfect fucking examples, because Cameron didn't go to rehab at all, right, Cam?
Outpatient.
And it took me 4 and a 6 month until I fucking got it. And but both of us sit here clean.
That's it.
Prime example. That's it, dude. That's it.
That's it, dude.
And he went to a Scientology fucking program.
Yeah, man.
And he's sober. The three different ways.
Same here we are. Many paths, one destination. You know what I'm saying?
Dude, we could end on that, dude. That's a banger right there.
Well, yeah.
Tell us how people can find you, bro. Because the stuff you're doing is really cool, dude. And I think the people need to know. And we'll let you get out of here.
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. So, if you've hung around this long, you can find me on Instagram. It's Jeremy, Jeremy RRT. That's it. That's how you find me. Our company is Rehab Road Trips. So it's Rehab Road Trips on all platforms. And like I said, our goal is to make videos that help people find recovery. So, I hope you guys check it out, and let me know what you think, man. We're always open to feedback and ideas, and collaborating, so like, I'm going to keep following what you guys are doing too. And, Henry, like when it comes to the rules, there are a lot of would-be rules with podcasts, and they're all meant to be broken, dude. So get weird, get unique, get creative. Like, I think you guys have a lot of potential, and I think doing things a different way will serve you both very well, and I wish that every listener who's in recovery has a sober day tomorrow. And I'm just grateful for you guys and for being on the show, dude. I'm grateful, and I feel charged up, dude. So thank you guys very much. Thank you.
Thanks,
this has
dude.
been awesome, man. And I have to say, I'll give you a little stroke real quick. I was remembering, I was inspired by you, because we talk about seeing people from afar that, it's funny. These like friends you meet in rehab are kind of like when you go over to your parents' house and they're like, hey, they got kids. These are your friends now, And then you watch them from afar on Facebook and they're doing their thing. But I love to see people in their purpose and doing what they love. And right when I got out of Elevate, you guys had the movie podcast about movies.
Yeah.
Because you fucking love movies and you made a podcast. And I remember the feeling of like, oh, someone I know is doing that thing that I thought was like out here ethereal or whatever you want to call it, that real people don't do. But I know this guy, I've met him, and he's doing it, and that's pretty cool. And I feel like that planted a seed for me. And then seeing you do the Rehab Road Trip thing, like living in your purpose, like doing what you love, being passionate about something has really been inspirational to me. So
awesome.
Thank you for that. And thank you for being on here, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys. Yeah. And if you're movie lovers out there, it's called It Holds Up. Check it out on all your pod platforms if you guys like movies.
All right, dude. Well, hey, we'll link all your social stuff
cool.
in the show description, and hopefully maybe one day we'll get you back on and we can talk more about Thetan levels and Scientology.
There we go.
100%.
We'll need a lot of time, bro.
All right, dude. Hey, you've been fantastic, and go get inside and warm up, bro.
Thank you, guys.
Dude, and hold on. Watching the sunset in California is the gift you gave me tonight.
There you go,
fucking magical, dude. Thank you.
There you go,
that
bro.
pink cloud was behind your head.
Oh, yeah, dude.
Oh, this is fucking. We're talking recovery and watching the sunset over there.
In Monterey, of all places.
Incredible,
dude. You got to see it in Monterey.
That's it, man.
Life is good. Better than my wildest dreams right there.
There it is, dude. And that's the ender.
All right, dude. Take care, Jeremy.
Yeah. All right. Thanks,
Later,
guys.
bro.
Later, brother.
Goddamn, son. It's the best guest
We've
I've
been
ever
replaced.
We've been replaced.
Forrest
dude.
Brownell and Jeremy Miller, your two new hosts.
There we go, dude. There we go.
Were you sitting here like nobody's gonna want to listen to us anymore? They're gonna be like, "When's that fucking Jeremy guy coming back?"
Dude, I was thinking the same thing. He got like 20 minutes in, and I was sitting here. I literally text Henry. I was like, "Dude, this dude is straight flames, dude. What a cool guy, bro. I mean, he fucking killed it." And actually, a lot of really good, thought-provoking stuff like that. I'm gonna go marinate on. I love. Before we get out of here, because this one has run long. I love the way that he tackles his recovery. It's kind of like a phone conversation you and I had on how it looked different in year 1 and year 2, right? And and what it looks like in year 6 is different, and that's okay, right? Like that's okay. So for people in recovery, if you can take anything from that, just know that hey, you may be going to meetings like 5 days a week right now because that's what's getting you there, but it may not always be like that, and that's all right. You know what I mean? Be water.
Yeah. Stick with what works for you, man, and that does look different for everybody. And you know, we've had people say this is their meeting, you know, listening to our podcast, and that's like the highest compliment that we can get. We love that. I don't want that to sound like a humble brag, but I mean, people have said that, and if that's what works for you, man, if you can't get there for whatever reason, you don't have a vehicle, you're remote, whatever, or you don't like them, you're uncomfortable, anxiety, whatever the fuck it is. If this is what you do this. If, you know, whatever you do, just keep doing it as long as it keeps you clean, man.
Exactly. And we'll always be here for you. Hen and I are never going anywhere. We'll be here. And that's a fact, brother. That's a fact. So I'm going to give the condensed speech because I'm starving. This is the longest one to date, 142.
For sure.
Look at that long one. But dude, it could have gone longer, but I felt bad for him because he's out there fucking freezing his dick off. Okay, man. So
you were hungry. He would have kept going, dude.
Well, dude, we gotta be mindful of our guests, right? He was outside. He's outside.
Oh yeah.
So give us a follow on Spotify, Apple, Samsung, Amazon Music, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram, all as Rude Dude Pod. A like and a share would be really great. Go follow our buddy Jeremy, who you just listened to on Rehab Road Trips. Really cool stuff. What he's doing is really awesome. And if you are lacking any motivation, just re-listen to this episode and listen to that man's vigor. Go and do us a favor by going and following him and supporting everything that he's doing. We have a support this podcast link in the bottom of the show description. You could support this podcast for as little as 99 cents. Any donation goes a long ways to help us keep growing.
Me, I'm poor.
Help us, we're poor. You know, I'll never stop saying that because, hey, I know you guys could help. That is really all I got this week. I will finish it like I always do. I love you, Hen, very much, brother.
I love you too, Cam. I'm floating right now, man. That was a good one.
That's the best
and
one.
Remember, Remember, kids, did a crackhead ever wake up and say, I don't think I'll smoke crack today? Hell the fuck no. They figured out a way to get it done. And that's what you gonna do for yourself and your recovery. And be yourself and fuck what they think.
And what a way to finish it. Now here comes the shrimp to send us off. Ready?
Send us off, shrimp man.
Later, dude.